when I look at the people who signed the Antarctic Treaty, see, this is what happened, man. In the 1920s, Admiral Byrd went to the North Pole and supposedly found an opening to inner Earth, which is incredible if that's true. You would think he'd spend the rest of his career, checking that out. I mean, and everybody would go check it out. But they didn't. He went to the South Pole, and you would think, well, maybe presumably he's going to see if there's another opening down there. But he spent the entire rest of his military career and life actually going down there. He died in 1957. Right before he died, there were a couple of very interesting. This is what my latest work is, a timeline that I'm putting together. And I actually start with the Tower of Babel, and I'm going all the way up to this September with CERN. That's the timeline that I'm covering, but really focusing in on the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, and up to 72 during the Apollo program. You've got people never really got to Antarctica until the 1800s because they just weren't able to do it. Late 1800s finally start finding ways to break through the ice, and this is interesting. James Cook, I think was his name. I believe it was in the 1700s, maybe 1700s or 1800s. He got to the coast of Antarctica. Let me see if I could pull this up here. Yeah, okay. This is a work in progress. I'm not ready to actually publish this blog yet, but I have it kind of a work in progress. Okay, 1773, on 30 January 1774, James Cook reaches 71 degrees 10 minutes south, farthest south, coming within 75 miles of the Antarctic mainland without seeing it. Okay. Later reports said that during 3 voyages lasting 3 years and 8 days, Captain Cook and crew sailed a total of 60,000 miles along the Antarctic coastline, never once finding an inlet or path through or beyond the massive glacial wall. So the other question is, well, how come ships don't go off the sea if it's flat? How come ships don't fall off the edge? Well, here's why you don't fall off the edge. There's a 200 to 300 foot high wall that is the coastline of Antarctica. It's the border that Scripture says is keeping everything in. Nothing's going past that. But yet the Earth is 25,000 miles in circumference, allegedly. It took him 60,000 miles to circumnavigate Antarctica. That's curious. Now, I think that's cumulative over 3 years, though, so I don't know quite what to make of that statement. But I don't know. So in the 1700s, this guy gets there. You get into the 1800s, they get closer and closer. And then when you get to the 1900s, that's where things get really interesting. Shackleton, this guy Shackleton, goes down there on the, and I think I put this in my original blog. He goes down there on the name of the ship is the Nimrod. He goes down there on the Nimrod, and it's called the Nimrod Expedition. I'm like, seriously? Okay, Nimrod's goal was to reach into heaven, right? Yeah, the Nimrod Expedition. So you can click on the link I got there and read all about the Nimrod Expedition, British Antarctic Expedition, otherwise known as the Nimrod Expedition. And it was on the name of the ship was the Nimrod right here. Okay, Nimrod was trying to reach into heaven by going up. Could it be that these guys are trying to go out, try to find the ground floor? I don't know, but I mean, why do you? And this is what really got me is they did so in 1908. 1908. I'm like, really? 1908? Seriously? 1908 is when Nimrod was born, according to my other. Let me see. I'm going to put in here. This is one of my other blogs. Yeah. Okay. The 350 post-flood years of Noah's life. This is a chart I did last year, and the follow-up chart, the Nimrod-Abraham timeline. Nimrod was born in 1908 AM, or years since creation. And then 1908, see, 1907 to 1909, well, that's 1908. Nimrod went to Antarctica. I'm like, I mean, you can't write this stuff. I mean, wow. Okay, so they go down there. A whole bunch of people are, from that point on, once they start finding ways to get through the ice to get there, more and more expeditions and better ships are built and used to get there. Then you get to Admiral Byrd. Now, when Admiral Byrd goes down there several times, and one of the operations is called Operation High Jump. And you're like,
oh, geez.
Yeah, right. Operation High Jump. Operation High Jump. Really? Operation High Jump. I mean, because they went out there with aircraft carriers and airplanes and stuff, some real heavy equipment and stuff like that. Operation High Jump. So then he gets on TV, national TV, and he does this radio show where he talks about all of the natural resources down there. I mean, coal and uranium and stuff to fuel the world forever. It's wonderful. And you can go on YouTube and look up the Admiral Byrd news interview. I think it was on CBS. And it's wonderful. And all these nations are going down there, Russia and Japan, all these nations are going down there. Check it out. Well, then he goes down after that interview. They go down on the next mission, which I believe was called Operation Deep Freeze. And then all of a sudden, everything changes. Everybody pulls out. They leave Antarctica. And all the nations that were down there doing whatever they were doing signed a treaty, the Antarctic Treaty. And I believe it was 1958 or somewhere thereabouts, saying, nope, nobody can stake a claim to Antarctica, and if you're going to go down there, you can only go down there for scientific reasons under carefully restricted guidance, but it's not a free-for-all. Nobody can just, hey, I'm going to go check out Antarctica and do a high jump on my own. No, can't do it. So when I look at the nations that signed the Antarctic Treaty, and I look at the nations that are putting forward quote-unquote space videos of the Earth, they're the same people. So if I was to put on my tinfoil hat and play the conspiratorial role here, there definitely appears to be some very suspicious things that took place. Then all of a sudden NASA is formed, and then simultaneously you have Russia and the United States doing high altitude nuclear bomb testing. They're blowing up nuclear bombs high up in the atmosphere, and they called it Operation Fishbowl. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, man. I mean, they're calling it Operation Fishbowl. Okay? So, I mean, if they're trying to keep us from having conspiracy mindsets, they're really not helping out much with the names. The Nimrod mission goes down there, Operation High Jump, and oh yeah, we're going to all leave there because apparently we found something, and now we're going to start blowing things up high up in the atmosphere. And if you go on YouTube and do a search for Operation Fishbowl high altitude nuclear testing and watch the explosions that took place and how they look, I gotta tell you, man, it looks like they hit a dome, and it's almost as if they found the end of the Truman Show in Antarctica, and then they said, I wonder how high this thing is, and started blowing off bombs. And then you're going to tell me that we went from Sputnik in 1958 to men standing on the moon in 1969. You're telling me in 11 years we went from ideas scribbled on napkins to putting men on the moon with technology less sophisticated than my iPhone. And if you go to NASA right now, and I started posting this video real early. As soon as they posted it to YouTube, I saw it like within days of them posting it. The Orion project is a new project that replaces the space shuttle program. There's all these videos, like at least 3 videos that I've seen, where the NASA scientists are talking about trying to figure out the radiation problem for Orion. They're like, we've got to get, and they got this young guy, and he's drawing on this thing. We've got to go through the Van Allen belts with these high, intense radiation, and not only once, but twice we got to go through it because it's a round trip, And so there's this big problem of solving the radiation issue for Orion. And I'm like, wait a minute, you went in a tin can and jumpsuits, 46 years ago. Why don't you just do the same thing? Put the same tin can together and wear the same jumpsuits. No, they're giving it away, man. They're telling you, and they're saying this in several videos. They're saying they have never been past 400 miles of the Earth's atmosphere. And wow. So, I mean, I don't trust them. I don't trust them at all. The timeline is very suspicious. The names of the programs that they're doing is extremely intriguing at best, and damning at worst, because, I mean, they may be just totally giving away the whole thing.